shell's ability to turn a few degrees toward a vehicle's armor when hitting it. This way, the impact angle becomes better and effective armor is reduced. APCR shells usually have the best velocity. They also penetrate obstacles and screens. Upon contact with armor, they also normalize, but to a smaller degree than AP shells. Their main disadvantages are that they lose a lot of penetration power over distance and ricochet at more acute angles. This means they're not the best choice for firing at well-sloped armor. This is where heat shells come in handy. They almost never ricochet and usually have good penetration. They don't lose penetration power at a distance, but they usually have worse velocity than APCR and AP shells. The drawbacks of heat shells are that they don't normalize and are worse at dealing with screens or obstacles. This is due to their explosive effect. High explosive shells cause devastating damage, but usually penetrate armor very poorly. They don't lose penetration power over distance. HE shells don't normalize, but they never bounce off either. They cause minor damage even without penetration. The damage caused depends on the effective armor at the impact point. You shouldn't rely on them though. It's better to penetrate the enemy's armor with another shell and save your HE shells for a thin target. Overall, AP shells are effective and versatile. APCR shells travel fast but often ricochet. Heat shells almost never ricochet but are ineffective against obstacles and screens. HE shells are the most niche use case and usually for targets with very thin armor. Different tanks can have completely different shell loadouts, but for all vehicles, the first shell is an affordable standard one. The second is a more expensive special round with improved characteristics. And the third is a high explosive shell. You can change their order for a particular vehicle in your garage. It's important to know the 3 caliber rule. It limits ricochets for thin armor. If a shell's caliber is 3 times higher than nominal armor at the impact point, it won't ricochet. Only effective armor will be calculated for any shell in this case. For example, when firing at the highly angled armor of the STR-V103B, the shell's caliber is more important than penetration. Now let's talk about how different guns are loaded. Cyclic guns are a simple and reliable option when shells are loaded one by one. Auto-loading refers to a batch of shells that are loaded together and fired off one by one. Vehicles with autoloaders are deadly with a full magazine, but vulnerable during reload. The auto-reloading mechanism is similar to autoloaders, but you can fire a few shells without resetting the entire magazine. The missing shells will reload automatically. Remember that shell auto-reloading is reset upon firing. Don't fire before the shell is loaded unless you have to. Improved auto-reloading partially solves this problem by accelerating preparation of the next shell if the loading process was reset by firing. The mechanics of double-barreled tanks are similar to auto-reloading, but both guns have the same loading time. You can also do this. In the next episodes, we'll talk about the differences between double-barreled tanks. Guns with deep rifling differ from others, as their APCR shells lose not only penetration, but also damage over distance. In the future, you'll see guns with an automatic firing mode and more. So, we've learned the basic mechanics. Now let's try some trap shooting. If the target is stationary, wait for full aiming. If it's moving, you'll need to lead your shot. If it's armored, pick a weak spot. At the front, that's usually the lower glacis plate, driver's hatch, commander's cupola, and so on. Sometimes it can even be the gun mantlet. When you're starting out, use the penetration indicator, but also try to learn and memorize the armor layout of various vehicles. In addition to aiming at weak spots, you can change your direction of attack. Even tough nuts are much easier to crack from the side or rear. And if you're much higher than your opponent, try to penetrate their roof. Remember that some vehicles don't have any serious armor. For example, light tanks are harder to land a hit on than to penetrate. It's useful to remember the layout of internal modules in enemy vehicles. Aiming at their fuel tanks, engine, and ammo rack will give you an advantage. Your chance of taking out an internal module depends on how much damage you cause it. You can find more information about module layout with the help of the World of Tanks community. External modules can also be disabled. Experienced tankers often immobilize enemy vehicles by shooting at their front or rear drive wheel or idler. Keep in mind that, after hitting an external module, shells keep on traveling and can penetrate the vehicle's main armor if they overlap. That's why shooting at a drive wheel doesn't do any damage from head-on, but can from the side. If the cost of the shot is high, it's better to knock off tracks with damage. In all other cases, destroy tracks even without causing damage. Immobilizing the enemy is very useful. Remember that tracks work as screens, also known as spaced armor. Some tanks are hard to stop due to their reserve track or wheels. When firing at a target, you often need to lower your gun to aim from behind terrain so you don't expose yourself. Different guns have very different gun depression angles. By using terrain correctly, you can minimize the lack of gun depression. There are also pneumatic suspension mechanics that help depress your gun. If the suspension is activated by pressing a button and not automatically, this is called siege mode. Besides gun depression, it also affects your mobility and many shooting parameters. In other words, a vehicle with siege mode can either roll fast or fire well. It looks like we're ready for battle. Or are we? Before we do, let's take a look at how you can improve your firing parameters in the garage. Crew perks. Intuition will allow the loader to change the type of loaded shell quickly. This way, you can quickly switch from a heat shell to AP to take out enemy tracks with damage, or to an HE shell to deal more damage to a target with little armor. Other perks can improve stabilization, shell velocity, and many other gun parameters. Try them all. Consumables. Food consumables will boost all characteristics that your crew affects. A little better loading speed, stabilization, aiming time, and so on. Equipment. Gun rammer improves gun loading speed. Experienced tankers value it highly, but it can't be mounted on tanks with auto-loading mechanisms of any type. Vertical stabilizer makes the aiming circle smaller on the move. It's useful, but it can't be equipped on many low-tier vehicles or any tank destroyers. Enhanced gun laying drive is useful for tank destroyers that can't use the stabilizer. Improved aiming makes the dispersion circle slightly smaller, both on the move and when fully aimed. It's useful for certain tank destroyers and snipers shooting from a distance. Improved ventilation improves everything a little. It's like a food consumable, but with a smaller effect. Field modification will let you further improve shooting parameters and unlock a special second equipment slot. It's better to put equipment of the respective specialization there. Experimental equipment combines bonuses from different pieces of equipment. For example, stabilizer and gun laying drive. So, we know how to shoot and what to shoot with. We're loaded and ready for battle. But if there are multiple targets in battle, who do you shoot first? This is called focus fire. Check their hit points. Most of the time, it's best to remove a tank with low HP from the fight. If you have a high caliber, sometimes it's better to cause more damage, but only if you're sure that the one-shot enemy won't run away and become a nuisance for you or your team. If you're playing in a platoon or just attacking together with your allies, you should focus your fire on one target. You also need to pick the fastest, most vulnerable, and most dangerous targets. For example, between a heavy tank and an ambush tank destroyer, it's better to choose the latter. It's easier to destroy, and this way, you'll eliminate its dangerous gun from battle. Tankers often choose reliable damage, closer targets with exposed sides, and so on. It's always better to cause damage than not to. But if you see a full HP heavy right in front of you, and a light tank with HP for one shot running away a little further off, weigh up your chances of hitting the priority target. Also, when picking a target, see who you can immobilize by taking out their tracks. Let's say you're fighting well on the front line, when suddenly you hear the siren wailing and see the base capture bar. How can you reset the capture? You need to cause damage to the enemy vehicle or damage any of its modules. This means destroying a track or damaging the gun will also reset the bar. And now, the most important thing needed for effective fire: your position. Even if you've prepared your tank, skillfully aim at weak spots, masterfully lead your targets, you're useless if you're not in the right position. Watch what other players do in your battles. Watch some streamers with good statistics. Memorize the best positions and don't be afraid to experiment. Remember that technically, the closer you are to the enemy, the more effective your fire will be. Get close, but not too close. Try to have cover and allies nearby, as well as a way to retreat. Monitor how the battle unfolds to attack or run away in time. A good position on the map is sometimes even more important than knowledge of weak spots and shooting mechanics. That's it for today. Show this video to your friends who are still hugging the red line and firing HE shells at the upper glacis. In the next episode, we'll talk about armor and damage blocking. See you soon. Hello tankers, I'm your instructor. Today, you'll learn all you need to know about blocking damage and survival. Its Majesty, armor. Every tank has it, and it's different for all of them, but all armor plates follow the same rules. Nominal armor is an armor plate's thickness at a perpendicular angle. Effective armor is armor thickness at the impact angle. At sharp angles, it will differ significantly from nominal armor. That's why the IS-7 only has 150 millimeters of front armor on paper, but in reality, it has much more. Effective armor is affected by shell normalization, which we talked about in the previous episode. Quick reminder, armor-piercing shells neutralize the armor slope best of all. APCR shells are less effective, while heat and HE shells don't turn on impact at all. Effective armor doesn't play any role if a shell hits a tank at a ricochet angle. The shell will just bounce off and go about its shell business. In the process, it might hit another part of the tank or even another vehicle, but only once. There are no double ricochets in the game. Ricochets heavily depend on the type of shell. If you're being hit with APCR shells, you can expose thin armor at an angle, but if it's a heat shell, you'll need the sharpest angle possible. If your armor isn't penetrated, the shell won't go inside the tank and cause damage. That makes sense, and even if it is penetrated, it's still not over. Your vehicle will lose as many hit points as the enemy shell causes with one shot. It's important to understand that hit points are a resource that can and should be spent if it's worth it, but we'll come to that later. Screens are armor plates put outside the main armor. Penetrating them won't cause damage because, after getting through a screen, a shell still needs to penetrate the vehicle's main hull or turret armor. External modules also often work as screens. For example, Tracks and gun can work as additional layer of protection. Each module has its own durability. That's why small caliber guns can only take out a track at the second or third attempt. Now we know how armor works. Let's talk about how to use it. It's important to note that armor is not tied to any specific vehicle type. Sometimes a medium tank can block damage better than some heavies, let alone assault tank destroyers. Staying far away and not using their armor is a crime. Regardless of vehicle type, frontal armor is generally thicker at the top and thinner at the bottom. The turret and upper glacis block damage better than the lower glacis. You can and should hide it, and there are several ways to do so. Classic side scraping. This way you can hide the lower glacis and only expose your side at an angle. Players often overestimate their sides and angle the hull too much. Don't do that. If you have thin sides, use a sharp ricochet angle. But remember the 3 caliber rule. Note that some vehicles' fenders are easily penetrated. This can sometimes make side scraping tricky, especially if your opponent is a little below you. Keep in mind that you expose your turret and part of your upper glacis when side scraping. If they're vulnerable, that's a problem. Some tanks can avoid that by reverse side scraping. This technique is very specific and not for dynamic close combat, but sometimes it lets you become almost invulnerable. You can also first bait your opponent to take a shot by showing only your side. Using terrain. If you attack the enemy from behind terrain folds, you can hide your lower glacis or even your entire hull. But a tank needs good gun depression angles to do so. If they're not enough, you can turn a little and try to position your vehicle so the front of your tank is lowered toward the enemy. If that doesn't help, try to bait them into shooting, then roll out to hit them back. When blocking damage, consider your turret position and hull shape. For example, a pike nose provides maximum protection in the upper glacis in this position. When the tank faces the enemy directly, you only need to turn it if the enemy is aiming at your lower glacis. Tanks with rear turret placement are usually well suited for side scraping, but perform worse on uneven ground. Some vehicles have good armor in the lower glacis, which allows them not only to side scrape, but also block damage with their hull front at an angle. We mentioned baiting for a shot a few times. You can do this with any part of your tank that the enemy can't penetrate. It can even be your rear, as long as it's at a sharp angle. These tactics will let you safely fire at an unloaded enemy. Brawl is a situation when 2 tanks are at fist-fighting distance from each other. In the brawl, you will often not be able to depress your gun toward the enemy's lower glacis, so it's important to hit other weak spots such as cupolas, the turret ring, driver's hatch, and so on. Also, prevent the enemy from hitting yours. You can also block damage without any cover. To do so, players usually angle their vehicle to increase its front armor. At the same time, it's useful to dance with your hull left and right, constantly changing the effective armor. Don't angle it too much, or the enemy will penetrate the side, or worse, the wheel. This way, you'll not only take damage, but also be immobilized. So sometimes it's better to roll at the enemy head-on. When your tank is stationary, it's vulnerable, and if your track is destroyed in a crossfire, it's best to use a repair kit. Sometimes it's worth saving, since it repairs other modules such as the engine, fuel tanks, and ammo rack. Now let's talk about how to increase your chances of survival before battle. Of all the crew perks, repairs is the most useful for survival. It's one of the most important perks for all tanks, except for SPGs and sniper TDs. With repairs, your destroyed track will be fixed much quicker, letting you find cover even when the repair kit is cooling down. Another important perk is firefighting. It will come in handy if you play with a food consumable instead of a fire extinguisher. The safe stowage perk will help tanks that often lose their hats. Other secondary perks decrease the chance of fire, improve the dispersion of a damaged gun, allow the commander to replace injured crew members, and so on. They can also be trained, but not first. There's also equipment that improves survival. The most useful piece is improved hardening. It's pretty much a must-have for heavy tanks and assault TDs, and can sometimes be useful for medium tanks too. Improved hardening increases a vehicle's HP, and, equally importantly, boosts track's HP. With this equipment, the enemy will have to fire at your rollers 2 or even 3 times to immobilize your vehicle. Vehicles that are prone to engine, fuel tank, or ammo rack damage can be equipped with improved configuration. It gives a number of useful bonuses, including higher internal module durability. Spall liner can also be useful in certain situations. The experimental Survival Improvement Suite combines the bonuses of improved hardening and configuration. So, we learned how to block damage, trained repairs, and mounted improved hardening. Time to battle. You roll to your position and get caught in the crossfire. When the enemy attacks from different directions, you'll have trouble blocking damage. Change your position and hide from all opponents except the one you're firing at. You can't survive the crossfire. In another battle, you might be able to block damage perfectly, but an enemy with a high caliber will load HE shells. These shells always cause damage, even when they don't penetrate armor. If an HE shell hits a thick armor plate, it won't cause much damage. But if you try to side scrape with thin sides, it can cause a lot more. Remember that if you can penetrate your opponent in return, you have the upper hand. You'll damage them more with penetrations than they will you with HE shells. If the enemy has strong armor, don't just stand there and absorb damage. Change your position or wait for a better chance to shoot. This also applies to enemy fire from distant bushes or artillery. If you're under fire and can't hit them back, you can change position or remain unspotted for some time. The enemy will be distracted by your allies, while you continue firing. To take less damage from artillery, remember that it can't reach you everywhere. Pay attention to how much of it there is at the start of the battle. If there are 2 or 3 SPGs against you, it's probably better to use a position covered from their fire, or just accept the fact that sometimes you can't avoid artillery damage. Finally, the most important question: do you always need to try to block damage? No. In addition to armor, your vehicle has a pool of hit points that you need to trade. There's nothing wrong with taking a hit if it means you get to finish off an opponent, or taking 400 HP of damage and dishing out 750 in return. You can intentionally receive damage to unload the opponent and give your allies a chance to destroy them. Or you can cover an ally with your vehicle to let them survive. All in all, no matter how reliable your side-scraping or hull-down position is, you don't always need to do it until the end of battle. There comes a time in almost every battle when you need to forget about blocking damage and just roll forward. That's it for today. Show this video to your friends who are still side-scraping at a straight angle. Next time, we'll talk about the view range system. See you soon. Hello, tankers. Today you'll learn how to see everything and be the eyes and ears of your team. Deploy your telescopes. We won't cover all spotting mechanics in detail in this video. We already did that in the video that will appear in the info card and description. The information there is still relevant. Today we'll talk briefly about the mechanics and pay more attention to how to use them. Sixth Sense is the ability that all commanders have by default. It shows that your vehicle has been spotted. Not immediately, but 3 seconds after you've been spotted. The standard disappearing time after you've been spotted is 10 seconds. Signal range is the distance at which vehicle icons will be marked on the minimap. Your range is added to that of your allied vehicles, so signal range isn't usually a problem. But sometimes it may prevent you from having full map information, especially in low-tier battles. The draw circle is the radius within which you can see vehicles spotted by you or your allies. The view range circle is the radius within which you can theoretically spot enemy vehicles yourself. The maximum view range distance is 445 meters, but you're not guaranteed to spot the enemy at this range, since your view range is always reduced by their concealment. We'll talk more about that in our next episode. Concealment is the reason to boost your view range higher than the maximum 445 meters. You won't spot enemies beyond that range, but additional view range meters will work to expose them. So, two tanks with view ranges of 445 and 500 meters will have the same maximum view range, 445 meters. But the tank with a view range of 500 meters will find a concealed opponent much earlier. Vegetation significantly improves concealment. The more bushes between you and your enemy, the harder it is to spot them. If you're closer than 15 meters to a bush, the vegetation in your sights will be semi-transparent, and you'll get concealment from the bush without any penalty to your view range. But if you move 15 meters away from it, you won't be able to spot anymore, but you'll probably be able to shoot risk-free. Bushes only lose their masking properties after a shot within a 15-meter radius. Even the best concealment and thickest vegetation won't help at a distance closer than 50 meters. At that distance, you're guaranteed to spot any vehicle, and they're guaranteed to spot you. Players have nicknamed this mechanic the X-ray. Keep it in mind, because X-ray is the only way to spot tanks behind solid cover. It's also important to know that tanks see with view range ports. All vehicles have two of them. To spot an enemy, you need either of your view range ports to see any of its visibility checkpoints. So you can't spot with your hull. Keep that in mind when rolling out from behind a corner. Here's one example of how you can use this knowledge. If you're not spotted and the enemy is about to go behind cover, you can wait until they're half there and then shoot. That way you won't be spotted after the shot, since their view range ports will already be behind cover. That's if their friends aren't around, of course. And if the obstacle is destructible, you'll have to destroy it to see the enemy. Makes sense, right? Remember that other vehicles or their wrecks are not an obstacle for view range. You can't shoot through them, but you can spot an enemy through them. You can also check a bush for enemies without even spotting them. Aim at the bush and raise the camera as high as possible. Tactical view will help. You can enable it in the game settings. Fire and look to see if the shell hits something behind the bush. Watch the tracer closely. If it disappears in the bush, it's either a magic shell or it's hit an enemy tank. But it's easier to spot an enemy the good old-fashioned way. To spot well, you need good view range. It's most important for light tanks, but can come in handy for other vehicle types too. View range will help medium tanks carry out scout duties when there's no light tank on the flank. Tank destroyers with good view range can spot targets for themselves more often. View range helps heavy tanks avoid taking damage from nowhere. Keep in mind that your view range is reduced when your observation devices are damaged, your crew is stunned, or your commander is injured. You have a repair kit and first aid kit to help, but only use them when you really need maximum view range. Who knows what your enemy might break with the next shot? How can you improve your scout capabilities? The recon, situational awareness, and Brothers in Arms perks will improve view range. All three are useful and should be trained. There are not only classic perks, of course, but many other interesting and useful ones too. Experiment. Consumables. Food consumables increase view range significantly. Equipment. Coated optics is a timeless classic that provides a big boost to view range distance. Optics should be mounted on almost any light tank as a priority. It won't hurt to equipping a medium tank or a TD with it either. Commander's vision system is almost as important for scouts. First of all, it decreases the enemy's bonus to concealment from vegetation. And since tanks often hide in bushes, you'll have more chance of spotting them. Secondly, it decreases enemy concealment when they're on the move. It's useful against all vehicle types, but especially against light tanks, because usually they don't have a penalty to concealment when on the move, but they do with Commander's Vision system. Improved radio set keeps the enemy you spotted visible for 2 more seconds. It also reduces the time you remain spotted by 2 seconds. It can be useful, but it's not very popular. Binocular telescope is good for passive play from one bush. It improves the view range more than coated optics. But it only works when your tank is stationary, and optics always works, making it more versatile. Experienced scouts choose optics. However, binocular telescope can complement optics. For example, on mid-tier vehicles where you can't mount Commander's Vision system. This way, you'll become even better tailored to doing runs from one bush to another. Finally, implementation. Your main task is to survive and spot hidden enemies for as long as they're on the battlefield. You won't help your team by spotting everyone at the start of battle, then returning to your garage. Your team won't have a scout for the rest of the battle, while the enemy team will. But don't stay too far behind either. When playing a light tank, remember that vegetation and enemy concealment always reduce your view range. To spot effectively, get as close as possible to enemy positions, but beware of enemy scouts and proximity spotting. The key for a scout isn't meters of view range, but how you use them. The most important thing is your position. Knowing initial routes and key bushes for spotting enemies is half the battle. Watch how experienced tankers play and memorize their positions. The other half is your ability to switch positions at the right time. Monitor the situation in battle to retreat or advance when necessary. Need to stay as close to the enemy as possible, while also staying alive. That's it for today. Show this video to your friends who light the enemy up nice and bright, but not for long enough. Next time we'll talk about concealment. See you soon. Hello, tankers. Today we'll talk about concealment. Wrap your camo nets tight around you. Let's begin. This video overlaps with the previous episode about the view range system. We won't go over all the mechanics again, since we did that in the previous video. You can find it in the info card and description. Today, we'll talk more about how to improve and use your concealment. But first, let's go through the main terms. If your tank has been spotted, you'll see a warning light bulb, but only 3 seconds later. Keep in mind that that's more than enough time for your turret to be hit. When the enemy stops spotting you, you'll be visible for 10 more seconds. Always remember that. But how do you remain unspotted? Every vehicle has its own concealment value. It affects what penalty the enemy will receive to their view range value. So whether you're spotted or not depends not only on your concealment, but also on the enemy's view range. Concealment depends on the vehicle size and type. As a rule, light tanks have the best concealment. For medium tanks, it's average. And heavy tanks, well, hide and seek is not for them. Tank destroyers usually have good concealment, but only when stationary. Concealment heavily depends on what your tank is doing. If it's stationary, the value is at its highest. If it's moving, then it's significantly lower. Concealment when stationary and on the move is only the same for light tanks. Finally, when you shoot, your concealment drops to its lowest. When you're hiding, shooting is the best way to reveal yourself. Bushes provide a great concealment bonus and allow you to hide almost right under the enemy's nose. To do that, you need to cover all your vehicle's visibility checkpoints in or behind the bush. The crowns of trees work in the same way, but only the crowns. You can't hide a tank behind a tree trunk, so it's best to fell it in advance. This rule doesn't apply to conifer trees, since they have low crowns. You can leave them standing. Both trees and bushes are divided into two types, with and without foliage. The concealment bonus from leafless vegetation is only half the one leafy vegetation provides, but it's a bonus nonetheless, so remember this difference. If there's more than one bush between you and your opponent, their bonuses add up. Double bushes work better than single ones. The only time vegetation doesn't cut your view range is if you're close enough to it that it's transparent in your reticle. That said, the concealment parameter is decreased for vegetation within 15 meters around you when you fire. Putting it simply, you can spot enemies when you're close to bushes, but will be spotted yourself after shooting. If you roll back, you won't be able to spot, but can shoot while remaining unseen. This is how you can use it. Roll to a bush so that it becomes transparent. Spot the enemy and roll back a little, then fire. To fell a tree, you don't always need to drive up to it. That can be very dangerous sometimes. You can load an HE shell and shoot at the base of the tree. This is a situational trick that isn't used often, but sometimes it can come in handy. Don't forget about the proximity spotting distance we talked about in the last episode. At 50 meters, the enemy is guaranteed to spot you. No bushes, obstacles, or terrain can save you. The good news is that you'll spot them too. Remember that the light bulb is displayed only 3 seconds later. If there's not enough room on your position to roll back 15 meters from the bush and fire, you need to get to cover after each shot, immediately, not after you see the light bulb. Keep in mind the time you remain spotted. If your gun takes less than 10 seconds to reload, think twice what's more important for you. Quickly causing more damage or waiting a few more seconds to disappear and stay alive. You can count these 10 seconds based on your reloading time. If you have an autoloader, think how much damage you might receive while unloading your magazine. If the HP trade is definitely in your favor, then go for it and head for cover later. Vehicles and their wrecks don't affect spotting. You can hide from enemy shells behind a heroically fallen ally, but not from their eyes. Finally, how do you hide without bushes? You need to keep an eye on the maximum view range distance on the minimap. If you stay outside all your opponent's view range, you won't be spotted. Inside it, your chances of staying invisible are higher if you don't shoot and stand still. But in most cases, without a bush, you'll be spotted as soon as you roll into the enemy view range circle. This depends on your concealment value. Concealment can be increased in several ways. First of all, don't leave your tank in its factory paint. In the Preset Styles tab, every 2D or 3D style gives a bonus to concealment. The difference is only visual, so select the one you like most. The Custom Style tab allows you to paint the vehicle however you like, but you'll only get that bonus if you apply camouflage to its hull. And we mean camouflage, not one-color paint. Perks. The concealment perk significantly boosts the parameter of the same name, and also depends on how many crew members have trained it. For the maximum bonus, you need to train it to 100% for all tankers. Brothers in Arms improves all parameters. It boosts concealment even more, but only if the concealment perk is trained. Food consumables and improved ventilation have the same effect. Improved radio set will reduce the time you remain spotted and increase the time an enemy remains spotted. It might be useful sometimes, but it's not very popular. Camouflage Net significantly increases the concealment value, but only for a stationary vehicle. It's a very situational piece of equipment that's most useful for some vehicles with siege mode, since they can turn their hull without disabling the net effect. Sometimes it can also be useful for passive scouting, but in most cases, low-noise exhaust is better and more versatile. It provides smaller bonus to concealment, but it works all the time, even when you're on the move or shooting. Keep in mind that all this may only be useful for light tanks, sniper tank destroyers, and some medium tanks. There are many more useful pieces of equipment and perks for heavy tanks, armored medium tanks, and assault tank destroyers. Now you know how exactly to hide from the enemy's sights, but you also need to understand where and how to do it. If you hide in bushes, it's best to do so in key positions, if possible, close to the enemy with lines of fire on their key positions. You'll only need bushes near the base for passive defense to retreat when it's obvious your team is losing a flank. Standing there from the start of battle only makes sense in specific sniper vehicles, which are less useful in close combat. But even in these vehicles, there will be moments when you need to leave the bush and go help your allies nearby. For example, take the bushes in sectors K0 through D0 on Malinovka, where you'll only be really useful if your allies lose the battle for the windmill. Or you can use the bushes near the windmill itself to win back key positions and the battle. On Paris, you can occupy a balcony and stay there until the end of the battle, trying to exploit enemy mistakes. Or you can fell trees in the town and shoot at heavy tanks while remaining invisible. In the second case, your influence on the outcome of the battle will be higher. It's very important to be able to use concealment in World of Tanks, but that's not all there is to the game. That's it for today. Show this video to your friends who put camo on the mouse's turret and hide it in the bushes in the corner of the map. See you soon.
Hello, tankers. Today, we'll talk about what vehicles are in the game, which are best for new players to research, and how to accelerate the process. All vehicles in the game are divided into 5 types: heavy tanks, medium tanks, light tanks, tank destroyers, and artillery. Heavy tanks hold the line and push through enemy defenses. Medium tanks are versatile fighters. Light tanks are quick and stealthy. They're the eyes and ears of the team. Artillery is a support type that fires at a curved trajectory. Tank destroyers either provide fire support from afar or in the thick of the action, depending on their role. Roles are a more precise division than types. It's like a wizard can throw fireballs, or be a healer, or a necromancer. 3 mages play completely different roles in battle. The same goes for vehicles. Sniper and assault tank destroyers are designed for completely different actions on the battlefield. Don't rush to the front line in a sniper TD, and don't stand behind everyone in an assault TD, even though the vehicle type is the same. We won't cover every role here since their names speak for themselves. Just know that tanks within one vehicle type can play differently. What exactly should you research? What types, roles, and branches suit newcomers best of all? Generally speaking, any. But it's probably best to choose breakthrough heavy tanks or assault heavy tanks as your first branch. They forgive your mistakes, and most importantly, help you to get to grips with the gameplay basics. Heavy tanks are the skeleton that the teams and the whole battle are built around. That doesn't mean other types and roles are worse. You can always start with medium tanks or tank destroyers, but it'll be easier to learn the ropes playing in the IS-4, IS-7, E100, or 60 TP. To purchase a tank, you need to research it using XP accumulated in the previous vehicle in the branch. Then purchase it for credits and recruit a crew if you need to. Don't recruit a new crew for each tank. It's usually enough to retain your crew from the previous tank to the next one. The next step is module research. Players call vehicles stock and top. Pretty much any vehicle only reaches its full potential when it's top, meaning all its modules are researched. Players often research a new gun first of all, and then everything else. There are many ways to accelerate your research of a vehicle branch. Blueprints provide you a big discount on research. For free XP, you can research modules or even a new tank. Premium account and personal reserves will help you earn XP and credits faster. Joining a good clan that activates clan reserves often will also help. Missions and Battle Pass will allow you to earn a lot of useful resources. Sometimes you can also go to your depot and sell vehicles, modules, or shells you don't need. Premium vehicles will come in handy for earning credits for purchasing vehicles, equipment, and other things. You receive them in top state. You can assign any crew from a vehicle of the same nation and type to a premium vehicle without any penalties to perk efficiency. Premium vehicles are always available for purchase for gold or money, but there are several ways to get them for free. First, Battle Pass seasons sometimes feature an additional chapter. Secondly, the Bond Shop also offers premium vehicles, among other things. Bonds are a currency that you can't buy. You need to earn them. They are earned in random battles with Tier 10s and Tier 9 premium vehicles and as rewards from battle passes, special events, and more. Don't confuse premium vehicles with reward vehicles. The latter also don't require module research, and the crews can be reassigned to them without penalties, but they don't have an increased credit and XP earning rate either. So we've chosen a branch and purchased a tank. How do you equip it for battle? There are two classic consumable sets. The first is cheaper, small repair kit and first aid kit and a fire extinguisher. The second set is for playing for result. Large repair kit, first aid kit, and a food consumable for the crew. Most tanks are most effective with this set. If you're looking for an alternative to a food consumable, consider any type of fuel. It will improve engine power and traverse speed. Your equipment selection depends on the type and specific vehicle. Improved hardening is almost a must-have for heavy tanks. Turbocharger is useful for all vehicles, but especially for medium tanks. Coated optics helps light tanks the most. And almost all tanks with cyclic loading can't do without gun rammer. The optimal loadout can change from one vehicle to another. Crew perks also depend on one vehicle type, but to a lesser extent. For example, Brothers in Arms and Repairs are useful for all tanks in the game, while Concealment shouldn't be trained first for many vehicles. Field Modification is additional tuning for an elite vehicle that has all its modules and next vehicles